Okay, so here we are here. Let's say a basic mix going on. Usually I do some things like I take care of overhead panning. What about toms? I try to stay symmetrical here. So you see how it just kind of rolls across there, symmetrical, kicks are fine, snares fine. Now, in this style of music, the guitars are usually, the rhythm guitars are usually brought out here. So it does, it helps separate them from the rest of the mix and make them louder. Now, when we do these shows live, I'm not always able to do this because of the room situation, the size of the stage volume, all that kind of good stuff. But I will flood them to a special effect I'll show you guys later on to kind of really thicken them up, even if I don't do much painting on the guitars. The guitar solos will be up the center, as will the vocals. Pretty cool? Alright. I'm going to start turning on automation. I want to return my fader levels if I moved them back to their original spots here, and then reacquire some groups here. So we'll do that. Bass. So start turning on the automation again. And the automation is really for Tony's vocals. It's just a bunch of this stuff. I know they make plugins to do that, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. It was a little tedious, but oh well. I'm pretty happy with the result. Alright. The group's in there.
Torturing and murdering people in his castle at Andaman.
Cool.
Court has found that he must pay with his...
Well, everyone's like, what'd you do with the kick drum? I'll show you guys. First of all, because of the grounding issue, I will have to use a noise gate. And you'll see that, and I use a similar setup on a kick mic. Very little holder release. The attack time is how quick it opens. The whole time is how long the gate's going to hold it wide open at unity gain after the signal goes below threshold. And then when that clock expires, the gate's going to go down from 0 to minus 48 reduction here. So it's going to do that in 6 milliseconds. So this is a quick open close kind of deal. Hysteresis basically means that the closing threshold is 6 decibels below the opening threshold. So it waits for the level to fall down to minus 31 before it starts these hold and release clocks here. I'll talk about this stuff on Tom's sidechain filters. So there we go. I do have a palette of a couple of SSL, like actual SSL plugins. One of my favorite is Drum Strip. I'm not a big fan of the noise gate, but you can hear when I turn that on what happens. Well, I cranked up the input level, which on this plugin, you crank up the input level, it's gonna like change. It's kind of cool, like an analog device. This guy right here is an amplifier. It's a transient shaper. I think Waves has one. Everybody has one. And it's going to hit a quick volume boost for those first few milliseconds, and then the speed is how long it is. And they didn't do like a translation. They just got raw numbers. The amount is the wet-dry mix, as there is a wet-dry mix for the whole effect. And every processor on it has a wet-dry blend, so you can do massive amounts of parallel processing. And earlier I said I was only interested in this for the attack, so that's what I'm interested in this for, that part. So I'm not trying to make, it's not even a trigger, but I'm not trying to make it sound like a natural kick drum, even if it was. And then here's the EQ. I'm knocking massive holes out here to the point where, you know, that sounds kind of stupid. There's a little bit of compression on it. You're like, man, that's, I don't know. But here's the deal. So hear the difference there? So wait till we hear it against the rest of the mix. It'll still won't be so loud. But yeah, it's obnoxious by itself. And same with the kick out mic. Gotta use a gate. But I'm only interested in this in the low end, so there it is. And the sound is kind of too wonky, means the sound is extending a little bit along the resonance, so I'm going to put it through there. I know you hear a little bit of funkiness, but that's okay because that's going to get covered up. there's the kick drum. What do we do to the snare? I reluctantly did a gate, and I did that later based upon all this other stuff I'm about to do here. Like, I do like these LA2 plugins. The real LA2 compressor it's an optical compressor, means it's got a photo sensing circuit and a light bulb. When the light bulb comes on, it senses and does its gain reduction. But the light bulbs don't come on instantly. They can come on slowly. So as a result, the real one has an attack time of about 10 milliseconds. So it's going to let transients pass on by. When cats use these on vocals, they have to use fast peak limiters in conjunction with them because they can't get that first edge. But man, what they do after that is so awesome. And then here's another drum strip. Transient shaper, I'm adding highs and lows. These are like sonic maximizers down here. Not really EQs. Right? That's pretty cool. And I did use a gate reluctantly. I don't like gating top snares. And then here's the EQ on it. I'm adding a lot of thickness there. I'm normally not boost like 1700 hertz, but like I said, I turn the knobs until it's okay. That's a narrow bandwidth, so that ended up working, right? And there's a high pass filter and a low pass filter at 20K. So
was found guilty of torturing and murdering people in his castle at Andaman.
So that's without
pay with his life.
And with. Pretty cool. All right, what do we do with the toms here? Obviously, noise gates. But let me show you guys I'll pick on Tom 3 since it's the middle of the road. The noise gates have a longer release because it's going to follow the shell down. So he hits the drum, the gate opens up in 1 millisecond, and then the level starts falling, in this case down to what would be minus 30 here because of the hysteresis. Then there's a little bit of hold time, but then there's a longer release time. And it's basically like somebody moving the fader and following the shell down. So with toms, I definitely want to open those up a little bit. Otherwise, they go beep, and then they stop. The side chain here is telling the gate detector circuit what to listen to. The side chain is the detector circuit. And we're telling it on this one, listen from 40 to 380. So when he's over there splashing and crashing cymbals, the gate's not going to open. But if he lightly taps on the tom, the gate is most likely going to open. It's called frequency dependent gating, and it's your friend. I do have drum strip plugins. I actually added these later because it just wasn't enough. I was going a little crazy. I pick on Tom 3 again. And a touch on the transient boost, and there's a touch on the high end boost here, but I'm really boosting the low end because what happened with the guitars is they want to be so beefy that I'm really going to have to drive the piss out of the low end here. So let me turn on the channel EQs, and I'll pick on Tom 3 again. And you look at that, and I'm cutting, look at all this. Why are you cutting these big holes there? That's where a lot of the guitars are going to sit. So I'm doing meatball surgery here on this, some massive surgery, playing crazy Tetris game to make that fit in there. If this was a different style of music, I probably wouldn't. I know it because I do different styles of music. I'm usually not so aggressive with this stuff because everyone fits in their own pocket easier. But everyone's crowded into the same zone. So I'm going to make them fit. It's like packing that bag. Those of us who were in the Army, we know how to make things fit in that bag. So we'll make it fit. And you can already hear the difference in the drums. So when you get another tom roll here, I guess, somewhere, there's a tom roll, and I promise. I'm gonna see them all down here, so we'll give this another. Actually, I just fast forward it, and then here it comes. Pretty cool. All right. So there's the toms. How did I fix the overheads? Well, let's do it. The levels are way off. That'll happen with Shure SM81s. The rotating pads and stuff on there can get bumped a lot sometimes. I'm going to use a plugin called In Phase. I'm putting the plugin on the mic I know is closer, and it's got a side chain from the other mic. I'm going to turn that on and take a capture, and you can see the wave files, and you can zoom in on it, and what you can do is time align these, and that's what I end up having to do up here. It's better than a sample delay because it's kind of hyper accurate delay. Like you can go like 0.23 milliseconds and stuff. So I'm going 0.99. Because your sample delays are only be as accurate as a sample rate. So if your sample rate's 48K, like this is you can delay it one sample, which is 1/48,000. If you're 96K, you can delay it like that. But this sucker right here, I forget how much math it does if it takes it up to 96 or 192 or whatever. But it's a hyper accurate delay. It's not a very expensive plugin. So as I A/B it, you'll hear the snare shift. Pretty cool. And then for the channels, the overhead channels, wiping out a bunch of low end. I'm wiping out some snares here. And on the overhead here, a narrow band boost around 6K. And same with this guy here. This is what helped pick up the ride cymbal. So when you're like trying to boost or cut something and it's naturally a narrow frequency, like the ding of the ride cymbal, you want to use a very narrow band EQ, kick the amplitude up, and then just sweep around and do it with the whole mixes up. This is how this is done. I did it with the whole mix up. And then you find the right spot. It'll come stick out at you and go, there it is. There's your solution right there. Don't worry about what the numbers say, all right? And then there is some compression on here, so we're trying to keep the volumes even here. So if I highlight all of this stuff, and like I said, I was really on the fence about this noise gate. Sounds a little bit more natural without it, but there was just something there. So now that I've kind of chopped off the drum, how do we give this stuff some depth? Well, we got drum reverbs. About 1.7 seconds, kind of a long time, but let's put it through the toms too. Okay. And there is a compressor after that too. I'm a big fan of putting compressors after reverbs. Pretty cool. Here how this changed a little bit. For whatever reason, it didn't bother me early on and I added it later. So there you go. Pretty cool. Awesome. I'm gonna come over here to the drum stem here. All right. I like to take all the drums and slam them through yet another LA2. And because we're dealing with transients here, I'm gonna put it through an L2 limiter, but it's not very aggressive there. And the drum reverb is going there too. Pretty cool. All right. I'm actually going to move to the guitars here, the rhythm guitars, all right? And to hear the tone, I'm going to go ahead and center the pans here. Now, here's the problem with the mics here. The 414s isn't shock mount, so it's not right on the grill. It's about a 3-inch difference. In retrospect, next time, I'm not going to use their shock mount. Say we're high pass filtered at 75 hertz. I don't get any shaking there or anything like that. So I think it'll be fine. But what I did get is a 3-inch difference, okay? And that makes a huge difference. It's called, you got time alignment issues. Now, studio guys, when they start moving mics in different distances, they want that second mic to be 3 times the distance the first one is. That's called a 3-to-1 rule. And that even itself doesn't fix any phasing issues. It just shifts it so far down the frequency range you don't even notice it. Like 30, 40 hertz, that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do, and I do this on live consoles, is I'm going to go to the mic that's closer. It takes a second for this thing to kick in. What I have here is about a 0.23 millisecond delay. It's about where the mic's at. And I basically, you can try to do this visually here. It's tough versus drums. But basically, I just cranked it until it came into focus, so to speak, all right? And your phasing issues would be most noticeable if these levels are even, which the 414's a touch louder than the 421. But at 3 inches, that's the wavelength of 4 kilohertz, full wavelength. 1 octave below, twice the wavelength would be 2K. So at 3 inches, if the mics are 3 inches apart, 2K will make 1/2 a cycle. When it hits the second mic, then it's going to try to make a positive half from the second mic while it makes a negative half from the first mic. And then you got total cancellation at 2K, and as you approach 2K, your degrees of phasing are going to vary. 4K will be 360 out, which is really in phase. It's just arriving a bit later. So there it is. See how much more bite it has? And I had to do this with this mic too, because the 609 is I've got the automation on, so let's, there we go. Even though it's not being used in conjunction with the other mics too much, I'm just going to time alignment anyways. All right. Same with Ben over here. He's a little bit more in phase there. And I'm going to do that with the lead mic too. All right, what am I doing with their channels? Well, the 414 mics are there for high end, even though I'm not getting a whole bunch from Pete here, but I am from Ben. So why am I going to boost low end on a mic that's placed for high end? In fact, I've actually removed some of the low end there. Now, Pete needed a little bit more top end than Ben here. Yeah, but you're taking some of that out. I don't want that mic there. 414 is not for low end. All right. But the 421 is. Just a simple low end boost. Pretty cool. No compression. Compressors don't react too well with distorted guitars because they're compressed already. Pretty cool. Now what I did on Ben's 414 is he's kind of got a scoop sound, so I needed to fill in the gap a little bit there. And then let's put the pans back out. And then I just set the faders and blends to taste. It doesn't matter if one's louder than the other. It really doesn't. Pretty cool. And he's obviously playing a guitar lead here. I'm going to deal with the bass player right now. The sample delay was there for the microphone, which I ended up not using. A DI will lead a mic by about 0.4 of a millisecond on average. Just a crap little low end and compression, and even more compression on the LA2, which really fattens things up. Okay, so he's going to melt into the guitars here, but he's playing a solo there. Over on the buses here, I use these tape machine plugins. A little bit of overdrive. They really want aggressive sound, so I'm getting aggressive here. What a tape machine does back in the day when we sent too much level is that he would run out of level on the top, so as you kept cranking the preamp up, it would bring up the bottom part of the level and change the average amount of energy and get all kinds of extra goodies coming in there. So that's kind of what this does. That's what the L2 limiters do, but this one's trying to act more like a tape machine, which is really nice. And then I do the same thing on the bass player here. Without bass. With bass. Without bass. With bass. Here's the difference. So Tony is melting in to their bottom of their guitars and carrying it down all the way down to the bottom of the range, like a whole other octave. Pretty cool? Alright. Tony's vocals, they were easy to fit in there. Sometimes metal vocals can be difficult in the studio because they want them so bassy and just, you know, well, the guitar's already bassy, so I'm just gonna let him high pass filter him out. This is the LA2's evil cousin, the 1176. The real one is the fastest reacting compressor in the world. So guys will sometimes use this as a peak limiter, and then the LA2 right behind it is overall compression, meaning peak limiter, fast attack, fast release. I'm going crazy with him. I'm trying the bus driver here from Nomad, just driving the piss out of everything. that tube sound. And then basically this EQ is not like by itself. It's kind of mid punchy. Once again, like all the EQs I've done on this session, they were done with the whole mix up. Okay, so this is how this worked out. I put a de-esser on for safety. Don't need it too much for him. And then a vocal rider fader to take care of the bulk of the little variances. So my automations were pretty simple. They were just pretty much straight lines across, and then if he was lower in volume for another passage that was up there. So that made the automation easier. But yeah, I'm really driving the piss out of it. I couldn't do this live. I'd be feeding back. So I had fun with it by adding the bus driver in there and all that kind of good stuff. And he is going through a nice, happy, almost 3-second doom and gloom reverb here, which is really cool. And I'm slamming him through here yet again. Pretty cool. So that's how that's going. Okay, I'll deal with the guitar solos here in the next video part here, but I will finish this out here. Since I did this for a video, I didn't send this off to be mastered, so I kind of did it. This is a crap load of air EQ at the high end there, way up there. So I'm cranking the crap out of that. And then an L2 limiter. Usually I just pull it down until I hear a little bit of difference. And I know some of my studio guys be like, look at your gain structure, oh my god. I'm like, whatever, alright, it works. That's all I care about. So, I'm not trying to like win Grammys with this here. Sounds fine to me. Pretty cool? Alright. So, I'll pause this here, because we're still not actually done with the rhythm guitar sound. But we're going to save that for the part 3 of the video, because this will help us with the solos, alright? So stand by for part 3.